I'm going to talk a little bit about Shamatha meditation, which is a very sort of classical, traditional meditation. And Shamatha literally means something like calm abiding. So it's a way of stabilizing the mind, but it's also a way of experiencing the mind as it is. And there is a recipe to this meditation, which I think is really helpful to know. Many of you might have been guided through meditations before, and very often we follow this kind of recipe either way. The first step is to take our seat. Of course, that is about the seated position in and of itself, which needs to be steady, but also a sense of uplift. So we have full contact with the ground. We can sit cross-legged or in virasana, but also there is a sense of uplift through the spine. Generally, we lower the chin slightly, and the tongue is resting behind the front teeth. The gaze can either just be resting downwards, it says 4 fingers in front of us, or you could close your eyes and you could have your hands resting in your lap. So that's part of taking our seat. But taking our seat is also in and of itself an act of renunciation, we could say, because for now, I am putting down distractions and concerns and I am showing up for practice. I often also think about taking my seat as a peace offering, that in the midst of all the turbulence that we're all going through at this moment, we're deciding to actually just sit down. So this is the first step, taking our seat. And then we take a few moments for that. And then we move into the next step, which is really an act of kindness, which is to check in to see, how am I today? Really, what am I bringing onto my cushion at this moment? And there are quite a few ways that we can work with that. We could either simply do a body scan from top to bottom, but we could also, in a yogic model, we often move through the koshas, it's called, the layers of our embodiment, which goes, we check in with our physical body, and then we move into the energetic breath body. And then we check in with our emotional state, what feelings are here at this moment. And then what is the quality of my attention? What is the state of our mind? It's very important to know where we begin, so we know what's already here. Anything that we are aware of, which comes into the light of awareness, we say, is workable. It is something that we can work with. Anything that is under the radar is not really possible to work with. So the first thing is to check in and see where our mind is at this moment. And from there, one can move into a sense of appreciating, we say in Buddhism, the preciousness of a human birth. That we have this body, that we have this possibility to practice. To be born in the human realm is said to be the most precious one, because we have the exact right amount of leisure and suffering to actually bring us onto the path. But even if you don't adhere to Buddhism in and of itself, here it's important to acknowledge that it is a privilege to have the possibility at this moment to take our seat. Just looking around the world, at this moment, I'm not fleeing for my life. I'm not looking for something to eat. I'm not looking for shelter, but I have the privilege to take my seat for practice. So I allow a sense of gratitude to seep through the entire body. And from there, that can bring us onto how precious this moment is, and that is, it's also changing, it's fleeting, which brings me to my motivation. So why am I here? Why do I want to practice? And here we're looking for not just sort of to be a good person, I want to practice, but really what is our deeper motivation that brings us onto the path, onto, or even just working with ourselves. So here we try to find some sincerity, and this motivation will sort of energize the whole practice. And if we're looking at the Mahayana system of thought or Tibetan Buddhism, we also like to reflect on our larger sphere. So perhaps how could my motivation be allowed to filter out, so in some sense could benefit other beings? So not just about me and my well-being, although important to remember, I am part of all beings. So when I'm wishing all beings well, I'm also wishing well upon myself. But Tibetan Buddhism likes to reflect on this larger benefit. So one can include that if that feels natural. And then you come to the actual sort of bulk of the meditation, which is to rest our awareness upon an anchor, we say, a resting place for the mind. And here we could choose the breath, which is probably the most common anchor. And you could find your breath in your belly center, or you could find the breath in the nostrils, or you could have a sense of the entire body breathing. But for some of us, placing our anchor inside our body might not feel entirely safe, or it might not feel like a home ground just yet. So it's important to remember that the mind, we often think that the mind drifting is not meditation and placing the mind is meditation. But both aspects are equally important when it comes to knowing the nature of our mind. So we say that the meditation actually holds these two aspects. We place the mind and then we bring the mind back. And over time, as we move into a little bit more investigatory aspects of the meditation, we might also recognize that, so here I am, I'm deciding to place my mind on the breath. But the mind wanders, the mind does something else. So that means that I am not free, because I'm not free to make a choice. So over time, we also start to look at what is it that takes us away from that freedom of choice. Okay? So this is the bigger part of the meditation. And then as we draw our practice to a close, then in the Tibetan system, we like to dedicate the merits, we call it. So we think about any positive energy that might have been accumulated from our practice. Could we offer that into our larger sphere? Could we offer that on to all beings? So here you don't have to sort of say it in a very sort of Buddhist specific way, but you can just in your own words silently see any positivity, could I offer it out into the world, so that the practice is not only staying on my cushion, but it's actually reaching beyond my own cushion, so to speak. So I hope that's helpful. As in the other video that we're making, I'll guide you through these steps in a meditation so that you could follow along with that if you'd like to. Thank you so much.